I was sitting across from my counselor, and I remember distinctly feeling filled with anxiety and dread. It was legitimate dread. And she began doing something that at the time I felt like it was extremely uncomfortable, much like any kind of counseling or therapy is. I felt that this was particularly uncomfortable, especially because I had been dealing with panic attacks for the last 9 months. And this was something that the young kids would call meta, because it was like a thing inside of a thing. It was like bigger than the actual thing. And so I didn't realize at the time, but what she did was give me a gift that I would use for myself and for every single person I have ever coached when it comes to how they spoke. And I'm going to give that gift to you.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference. So let's dive in.
All right, welcome to the Sam Linton Show. And we have been firing on all cylinders. As you see, I'm in the studio. If you haven't noticed, it is looking more and more dapper. I'm getting the lighting right. I'm looking extra crispy, like Colonel Sanders would say. And on top of that, I have a great segment today that we're going to talk about that's going to help you truly understand the way you have to think when it comes to public speaking, giving a presentation, running a meeting, whatever it is. How do you deal with the biggest opponent you are going to have to deal with? If you want to know who that opponent is, no, it's not the person in the audience. No, it's not your boss who is secretly hoping that you'd fail so that he could give your job to somebody more qualified. No, it isn't your kids because they want you to get fired because they want more time with you at home. No, the greatest opponent that you are going to have to contend with is your own thought process. Yes, I said it. I meant what I said. I said what I meant. The greatest opponent that you're going to have to contend with in your quest to become a more confident and clear communicator is your own stinking brain. It's the worst. Your brain is the worst. And the problem is, most of us infrequently analyze the nature of our thoughts. We don't think that way because it's too much work. We don't want to analyze our thoughts. We don't want to analyze if the thoughts we're having are helpful to us or not. We don't want to analyze if the thoughts that we're contending with are true or not. And so today I'm going to give you a framework that's going to help you that really I got from two sources, my counselor and my favorite writer and digital mentor, John Acuff. He's my ultimate favorite writer. And I modified his framework to help me to process my own angst when it comes to speaking and to making connections. Because this framework that I'm going to share with you, it's not only going to help you when you're speaking, it's going to genuinely help you overall when it comes to the way you process your own thoughts. And so I'm going to give this to you as a gift. And the other source was my counselor, which we talked about. So when I was at the height of my panic attacks in 2016, I was sitting across from her, as I mentioned earlier, and she started to ask me questions about the nature of my thoughts. Now, granted, we were there to talk about the way we think, so of course this is like a no-brainer. It makes sense. However, I didn't really like it because it made me uncomfortable, because the reason it made me uncomfortable was not because I was afraid to confront a dark thought, no, but it was because I started to realize that there were some holes in my approach to the way that I thought of myself as a communicator, and the way that I thought of myself as a pastor, and even as a father and a husband at that point. And so I had to come face to face with this ugly truth, and this is the truth that I'm going to deliver to you on a silver platter, that not all thoughts deserve your support. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Not all thoughts deserve your support. In fact, what we need to do is we need to install a filter over our minds, over which thoughts we are going to say these are good and we're keeping these, or these are nasty and we're evicting them. You can't pick your thoughts, but you can pick which thoughts you dwell on. And this is a part of the framework that I use when I'm coaching my clients on self-perception. You might call this emotional intelligence. I think that's a little too complicated for what this is, because this is genuinely just the thoughts that we have about ourselves when we publicly communicate. And how do those thoughts show up? And the truth is, if we are not careful, those thoughts are going to do way more damage to the way we speak than a bad audience, an underdeveloped message, or even a case of genuine stage fright. Because the thoughts that we choose to focus on will determine how we perceive ourselves. And when I'm working with my clients, I force them to perceive themselves in a more accurate and realistic way in terms of what the audience sees and not just how we feel about ourselves. So I'm going to give you the framework. There's 4 filters. Picture a big question mark, and each part of the question mark has a different component, all the way down to the little dot at the bottom, which isn't really anything except for our brain. So let's start with the first part of the framework. And this is like the filtration system. You know, you have the Brita and the different, I don't know what your water purification system of choice is. I'm sure Bobby Kennedy is going to have more filtration options than what we have. But the Brita system kind of takes the water and puts it through a filter. And the filter is supposed to weed out like any of the toxins, any of the things. And of course you could buy more expensive ones like the osmosis one that you actually plumb into your sink that you can get that fresh water. You can get like a circular one. There's a lot of different, I don't know much about what I'm talking about when it comes to filtration. I just know that for the most part you want to get something that filters out the water. Well, just like you do that with your water, you want to do that with your thoughts. Absolutely. You need a filtration system. And that's what this is. These are 4 questions that I ask myself about every single thought that I have, especially when I'm leading and when I'm communicating. So the first question is about the thought that I'm having right now. And this is how I'm going to determine whether I give it weight. All of these, some of them, sometimes it's going to go through 3 parts of the filter and stop at the 4th. It might have 2 of the filter and stop at the 3rd. It doesn't matter. These, you can ask these in any order, but I'm going to go through them quickly. First of all, big one. Is this thought mine? Is this thought mine? So here's the question. Is the thought you're having about yourself a thought that you have generated about yourself objectively, or are you hearing the ghost of an insult that somebody made about you some years back? So I'll tell you a little quick story about this. When I talk to people at the church, I have picked this up and I've learned it in my own life, but it's also true in most people's lives. And it was the title of a popular episode of the show Lost. Now, R.I.P. Lost, it's no longer on television. And I'm glad that it ended because it kind of got weird at the end. I mean, we can have a debate about whether or not Lost. If you'd like to talk to me about what your thoughts are on Lost, it's podcast@samuellinton.com. But the show Lost essentially featured this cast of characters who were finding themselves on a deserted island after a massively horrible plane crash. They're the survivors, and they band together, and it takes you approximately 30 seconds in the first episode before you realize that all of these folks have a story, and the stories are going to be crazy, and they're going to cause havoc on this island. Beautiful setup for an amazing show, right? So one of the episode titles it's just the title that's always stuck with me. And the title is All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. All the best cowboys have daddy issues. I don't know who the feature of that episode was, because every single episode kind of featured a character, and we kind of went into a time warp into their backstory to see what was going on in their life before they took the trip that landed them on the island, what was happening right before the plane crashed, even in future episodes, spoiler alert, what happens to some of them when they leave the island. And we have flash forwards in those. But the point is this: the episode was too good. The title was too good to just be restricted to one obscure lost episode, because the best leaders, the best communicators, the best business owners usually have a heaping pile of daddy issues. Sorry to admit it. I'm going to say I'm chief among this. I have daddy issues. You have to sort through things, but we have past issues that we deal with. And so it doesn't mean that you can't overcome them and become ragingly successful or really, really healthy in your relationships. But what it means is we have to be super cautious that when we begin to think something of ourselves, that we are not just regurgitating thoughts spoken of us by somebody else, namely your father. Maybe an authority figure, maybe a coworker that you had a bit of a rivalry with, and they have told you that you are a terrible speaker, or they have told you that you will never be able to captivate an audience like the person that had your role before, or they have told you that your meetings are stupid, and every time you get up to start an all hands at your company, you feel like a huge slug, and that it's all just a waste. So the question you're going to ask yourself first is, the thought that I'm having right now even mine? Or did I absorb this from some sort of other source? Now, Alex Hormozi said this. And Alex Hormozi is a big bearded internet influencer who knows a lot about business, running companies, sales, and how to eat more protein in a day than most of us eat in a year. Alex Hormozi said, I will never take criticism from someone who I wouldn't ask advice from. And holy moly, what a privilege to be able to own that type of statement. Don't you wish that you would be so confident that you would never take criticism from anyone unless you would ask advice from them? Because that list of people who give us thoughts and criticisms that actually matter would become strikingly small. Probably only 5 or 6 people on that list. But most of the time, what do? We internalize the criticisms we've received from other people, namely authority figures, or even, worse still, family members that didn't treat us so well. So before I engage in any type of meandering on a thought, I decide, is this thought even mine? I mean, really, is this mine? Like, legit? Like, did I come up with this on my own? Or is this something that has happened as a result of murmurings, somebody that, I didn't even really want to hear what their opinion was, and I'm not going to own it if it wasn't mine to begin with. So right off the bat, you could evict a lot of thoughts just by saying, did I even think this of myself, right? So is it mine? All right, so that's the first one. The second one, and the last 3 I borrow heavily from John Acuff's New York Times bestselling book, Soundtracks. I was on the launch team for that book, phenomenal book. And in the book, it's all summed up by 3 questions. He says you should filter each thought of overthinking. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? So I'm going to kind of change it to my terminology, which I think helps a little bit more when it comes to speaking. So the second question I ask is Is it graceful? Is this graceful? I mean, would I talk to my spouse the way that I am talking to myself right now? Truth be told, most of us, if we talk to other people the way we talk to ourselves, we'd go to jail. We would at the least have a restraining order put on us because our thoughts are ruthless about ourselves. Like, we hold ourselves up to impossible standards most times. We don't celebrate wins most times. We don't objectively examine if we have a thought, if it's going to truly be a graceful thought. Like, think of what a coach would say versus what a drill sergeant who wants you to flunk out of basic training would say. Is this a graceful thought? And you want your thoughts to be graceful, gentle. So when you think of yourself when speaking, go, I'm such a sucky speaker. I am not interesting. I read too much. Instead, maybe ask yourself, hey, you could do a lot better if you didn't read so much. Or hey, you could do a lot better if you got more energetic when you're talking. Like, you would do a lot better. Like, just take that thought and think about how to say it in a graceful way to yourself. Not, oh, I'm the worst speaker that's ever lived. I hope somebody just throws a grenade onto this platform right now or blows up my meeting so I don't have to do blows up my Teams meeting so I don't have to have it, right? Like, that's not a graceful thought. A graceful thought, you have to ask, is this a kind way to think right now? Or am I being totally unreasonable? Would I talk to my child this way? Would I talk to a client this way? Would I talk to a potential sale this way? And in most cases, the answer is no. No, you don't talk to people that way. No, you don't talk to your sister-in-law that way. No. But that thought is still there anyway. So you have to ask yourself, first of all, is this even mine? Second of all, if it's mine, is this, am I being graceful here? Am I really being graceful with myself? Third, is this thought useful? Is the thought useful? So if I dwell on this thought, is this productive? So I'm filming this right now on the evening of the Donald Trump, and I know I don't want to get political, but whatever. It doesn't matter. The Donald Trump, Elon Musk breakup. Okay, so, they were really, really close, and now there's this massive split between them, and they're fighting on social media, and it's not going to, nobody's going to win from this. There's no winner in this. It doesn't matter what political side you're on. But here's what I have come to realize. My business is not going to grow anymore because of the hour and a half I spent tonight running through Twitter like I was lost in a cornfield. Like, it's not. It's not. I'm not going to get a client tomorrow. I have a potential client meeting tomorrow. I'm not going to have a conversation tomorrow where this client goes, you know what? I would hire you to help me speak better, but I really need to know if you can quote the last 3 things that Elon Musk said over X. Or I'd really like to know if you could quote the last thing Trump said on Truth Social. They're not gonna really hire me based on those things. I'm making an educated guess. So for you, the thing of it is you might have a thought and it might be true, or it might be yours. It might even be graceful. It's not really hurting. But here's the question. Is you focusing on that thought? Is it useful? Is this productive? Is it productive to you right before you speak to think about that one time that you asked that girl out in elementary school to go see Free Willy, and she got really mad at you and didn't answer you on the playground, and she just went and talked to her friends about how mad she was that you asked her out, and you were like, I didn't really want to go see Free Willy anyway, and then you went to see Free Willy with your mom, and you felt super rejected the whole time because your mom took you and not the pretty girl that you wanted to go out with in grade school. And I may or may not be reliving some trauma, but this may or may not have happened. It's irrelevant. Okay, so is you thinking of, and it did happen. I asked her, on the playground, I was like, oh, I even asked my parents if we could save up enough money to buy her ticket. Now remember, at this time, this is going to be horrible, but to go to a movie, a first run movie at one of the theaters close by, it was like $3. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you went to the movie theater and it was $3 to go see a movie? Can you, like, what would you do? You would literally grab the person selling you the ticket, the 16-year-old selling you the ticket, and you would bear hug them as if they just delivered you from an avalanche. You'd be like, "You are giving me so much income." Like, do you know how much I took my kids to see a movie last week? I took them to see a movie, and it was like, just to even get in the door, it was obscene. Just to even get in. I'm like, what are you, like, I don't even understand this. $3. So anyway, I convinced my parents to let me get the $3 so I could treat this girl. I was in 4th grade. I remember it being sunny on the playground. I asked her to go out with me to see Free Willy, have her parents drop her off at the movie theater, and she didn't answer me. I still don't know if she really wanted to go. I don't think, I mean, I haven't checked. I don't think she showed up. She just walked away and immediately went to her friends and started giggling. So here's my question. Would it be productive if I thought about that rejection right before I coached a CEO on how to speak to his shareholders? Do you think? Do you think it's really useful if I would focus on that right then? Do you think, better still, it's useful for me to think about the time that I bombed when I ran a meeting, or the time that I bombed at the church when I was speaking and my tech failed and I didn't know how to recover? Like, do you think that's helpful in that moment? And the answer a lot of times to those thoughts are no. No, it's not helpful. So why would I focus on a thought that's not useful when in reality I can just say, look, I'm not thinking about this now. Yeah, that happened. Yeah, it's my thought. Yeah, it might even be graceful. I mean, maybe it wasn't me that she was afraid of. Maybe it was like she had a really bad thing against whales and didn't want to go and support Free Willy. Which I get that. And Free Willy was a blockbuster, had a Michael Jackson song in it. You got to check it out. If you haven't seen Free Willy, you're sleeping on an awesome. I mean, Free Willy, like, he does spins and stuff and has this awesome ending. Just go see it. Save yourself the trouble. Go see it right now. All right. So it's not useful, though, before you're about to speak, to think about your worst rejection. It's not useful before you're about to speak to think about how you are behind in your fitness goals. It's not useful. It's not helping you. It's not getting you to that place where you have stronger grip on who you are in terms of your self-perception. So I would not allow that thought to be what I focus on. Okay. So we covered 3 of the 4 filters, and drum roll for the final one. Big time from the Sam Linton Show studio is the thought even real? Is the thought even real? One of my favorite quotes from Mark Twain is a quote where he said, "I have suffered a lot of worry on a lot of days. Some, and I'm butchering it, some of the things actually happened. I've experienced a lot of hardship, and some of those things actually happened." Meaning, I butcher the quote, but it's okay. He's not going to dispute it. Even if that worry has beset him, most of the things that he worried about never came to pass. They were just not real. It was just fake. And anxiety and fear essentially is you borrowing potential trouble from tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You have no idea. You have no clue. And what we do a lot of times with our thoughts is we'll say, well, what if I don't have enough content? Or what if I bomb? Or what if that certification doesn't go well? Or what if? And most of those things, they're not even going to happen. Like I worked for Dale Carnegie for a decade. And I've done programs all over different parts of the country, at tri-state area. And I had the privilege of meeting tons of clients. And every single time I would do a program, one little thought would come up in my brain. What if this thing just sucks? Like, what if I don't know the material enough? What if it bombs? What if, like, the tech doesn't work? Like, all these things. And almost always, none of that stuff ever even came to pass. What a waste. Instead, what if I thought, hey, I'm probably going to kill this. This is probably going to be a very awesome program. I'm probably going to help these people in a lot of ways. Or for a coaching, I did a keynote recently, and I didn't have the thought, because I'm a veteran at this point when it comes to controlling my thoughts, but what the thought came up was, well, what if it bombs? What if nobody's engaged? What if nobody asks a question? What if nobody has... And that never has happened, ever. That's sermon. Oh, that's sermon. What if it sucks? That's never happened. I'm not saying haven't been some that are lackluster as compared to others. But what I'm saying is almost all of those types of what-if thoughts never come to pass. What a waste. So you got to ask yourself the question, is this even a real thought right now? Yeah, what if all of a sudden, the stray dog that I'm afraid of running into in an alley suddenly got on creatine, got a six-pack, and started to challenge me to an MMA fight? There's a lot of weird thoughts that we could have that are what-ifs, but almost all of them are untrue. And so you have to begin to really evaluate your thoughts in terms of these filters. So just to recap, because I'm going to put this baby to bed, is the thought mine, or are you listening to somebody else's voice? Number 2, is the thought graceful? Is my perception right now a graceful perception? 3, is this thought useful? Is this helping me to become a better communicator? Is this helping me to connect to my people more? And finally, is this thought even real? Is it true? Is this based on reality, or are we in La La Land? Are we in the DeLorean heading back to the future, right? Like, is this just nonsense? If you get your thoughts under control, when you get your thoughts under control, you're going to speak better. You're going to become self-forgetful. And you're going to be focused on the moment, on serving the people that you're speaking to. You're going to become a better version of yourself. And you're going to serve those people in a huge way. And that's what I help my clients do all the time. I coach executives in particular. I have a call tomorrow with an executive. And I coach executives on how to become better versions of themselves so that they can lead with their words. If you feel like you're plagued with ineffectiveness when it comes to your speaking, and you don't know how you're landing, and you're in an echo chamber, you don't know how you're really doing, let's work together. I'd love to talk to you. I'll give you a free hour just to go over maybe some of your goals, some of your dreams as a speaker, and what that looks like. And believe it or not, it doesn't take a very long time to really revolutionize the way that you speak. So if that's something that might interest you, reach out at podcast@samuellinton.com. And I would love to be a part of your development as a next level communicator. So thank you for joining us live, not anymore, but live previously at the Sam Linton Show studio, where we ask you to shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Until next time, bye-bye.